Okay. Okay, so we will call this meeting to order. So I'd like to start by saying that these microphones are working excellent. So I don't know what you guys did today, but I will take it. Secondly, today, June 21st, is National Indigenous Peoples Day. And so we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that this has been something that's actually been quite important to our council as part of our strategic planning and our budget practices. We've been talking a lot about truth and reconciliation, and as a group, how do we move towards truth and reconciliation? So one of the things that council has been working on behind the scenes was a land acknowledgement piece. Our intention was to create something that we felt was genuine and was something that came from us. We wanted it something that was easy to be able to work towards remembering. And we did get some consultation too from some of our First Nation neighbors and that sort of thing, but quite happy with what we come up with. And so the intention with this land acknowledgement is this will be part of our culture as an organization as we move forward. So you'll see that a number of our staff, if you've received emails from them lately, this land acknowledgement is at the bottom of our emails. It will be part of our agenda packages. When we start our meetings, it'll be something that we use in our formal meetings as we move forward. For the committees, it'll be something they adopt as they go along as they feel what makes sense for them. Additionally, we are working towards putting these in print and putting on signage in our facilities, and we just think it's important. We recognize that we are fortunate to live where we live, and that we share this land with the many Indigenous people, and it seemed like a great day to be able to recognize that. And so I will start this meeting by saying that in the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sawridge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. And so I recognize as an organization and as many organizations across Canada, there's still a ton of work to do on truth and reconciliation, and this is only a small piece, and we will keep working towards it as an organization to continue to improve our understanding and our education and incorporate those values and that education and that culture into how we do business as an organization. So with that, we will jump into our agenda. So first off, we've got a copy of the agenda in front of us. Is there any additions or changes? I do have a closed session. Any other changes? Sorry, Councillor Ferguson.
Yes, I would like to add an agenda item for municipal tax exemptions for social housing.
Okay. Okay, anything else? As I see nothing else, Councillor Adams? Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. I'd also be remiss here. I should also welcome as we go along our new CAO, Jeff Simpson, has started. He is on day 2. And so lots of orientation going on behind the scenes. Gary, your interim CAO, that's been covering for the last year, is here as well tonight. And so they'll be tag teaming the council meeting here tonight as we go along. But welcome, Jeff, and we're excited to have you see how we do our business. First item tonight is a public hearing. So we got an application to amend land use bylaw 22/2007. So I'll start by saying that I declare this public hearing open and state that this hearing is held pursuant to sections 230, 606, and 692 of the MGA 2000 as amended. Purpose of bylaw number 11, 2022 is to amend the land use district map of the land use bylaw number 22, 2007 by redistricting lot 14, block 12, plan 2977 RS from R1 standard detached residential district to R2 medium density residential district. The notice of this hearing was given in writing to the applicant, the assessed landowners, and adjoining landowners, as well as the planning and development officer. The notice of this hearing was advertised on the town's website from May 18th to June 21st. Presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order of presentations will be planning and development, followed by those in favor of the bylaw, then anyone opposed, and lastly, any person deemed affected who wishes to be heard. Anyone giving presentations, please state your name and address. So we'll begin with planning and development. So Lori, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, your worship and members of council, purpose of this report is for council, obviously, to hold the required public hearing for bylaw number 11, 2022. The applicant and landowner are Corey Stab, and the civic address is 320 3rd Ave Northwest on lot 14, block 12, plan 2977 RS. The application is to rezone the subject lands from R1 standard detached residential district to R2 medium density residential district to facilitate the development of a semi-detached dwelling. In accordance with the MGA, the bylaw must receive first reading. First reading was given prior to passing a resolution, I should say, and first reading was given on May 17th. The subject site is within the residential and general urban designation of the MDP, so an amendment is not required to that plan. The Municipal Planning Commission reviewed this application at its June 6th meeting and have indicated that they support bylaw number 11. Referral letters were sent to adjacent property owners. On June 6th, we received a letter from Terry Mosier expressing concerns, and that's attached to your package. We also received a letter from Don and Stacy Hansen, a copy of which has been provided on your desktop. Only one plan amendment is required for this application, and there are no area structure plans that affect this area. The applicant purchased the above noted lands and would like to develop a semi-detached dwelling on site. The parcel in question is a little bit larger than a standard residential lot, and the applicant's confident he has a building plan that will meet with the regulations of the R2 district, as well as all other development requirements. I just wanted to point out that in accordance with section 3 of the land use bylaw, adjacent means contiguous or would be contiguous if not for a railroad, road, utility right-of-way or reserved lands. Currently, there are R2 medium density developments with semi-detached dwellings on them located immediately north at 321 4th Ave Northwest. As the subject lot is located immediately south and only a lane separates these parcels, the parcels would be considered adjacent and contiguous. As such, this application would not constitute spot zoning. There are also two other lots on the block of 4th Avenue, Northwest, that maintain an R2 zoning and are also developed with semi-detached dwellings. As such, there is a good mix of R1 and R2 developments within the first two blocks of Main Street. And that's it for now.
Okay, questions for planning and development? Councillor Adams.
Just so my understanding where this is located on 3rd Ave, we've got the R2 right behind is what you were saying there, but also further up, there's 4 lots on 3rd Ave
That's
as
right.
well.
Yeah.
And then there's R3 and R2 on the back alley behind on 4th Ave.
Yeah, there's R3 zoning, but there's R2 developments on it. They're semi-detached.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? As I see none, thank you, Lori. At this point, I would ask anyone in favor of the bylaw to come forward and speak. Anyone in favor? Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Corey Stab from 900 9th Street Southeast.
The floor is yours, Corey, whatever you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Corey Stab and I'm a local developer in the town of Slave Lake. I'm here today to try to rezone 320 3rd Ave Northwest into an R2 duplex lot. Before the fire, there was previously a 3-plex with a bed and breakfast, meaning the land could fit parking for 4 families. My application to build a 4-plex on this land earlier this year was denied, and the feedback that I had gotten the biggest concern was spot zoning. Next to the property I'd like to build on is a $500,000 house. Just across the street and 3 doors down, there's an older 12 wide mobile home. And just a few doors down from that, there's a large commercial building. The street directly behind the property, there's actually more duplexes than houses. I was also told that parking was a concern. To some, just because it's a duplex doesn't mean that it would have more vehicles than a single family dwelling. I've seen duplexes with one single vehicle and many single family dwellings with multiple vehicles. And that's all. Please consider rezoning this land.
Okay, questions from council? Councillor Adams.
I'm curious about the design of it there. Are you planning on having 2 driveways in the front or doing like you were talking before with the 4-plex by having access from the back?
So I'll have kind of both. I'd like 2 driveways in the front and then just gravel in the back, but you can still pull in there, like, and then a fence. So there will be room for, they could pick, I guess. You can go in the front or the back.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Randall.
So front driveways, single or double?
I think double, like each person would be able to fit 2 vehicles in there, I guess. So a total of 4 vehicles could fit in the front.
Okay,
And then in the back, I'm not exactly sure because I don't have a print or anything, but it would just probably be single story developed basement. It wouldn't be a 2-story or anything like that. Yeah, just a smaller duplex, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
We did one earlier last year and that was exactly the issue too with parking and snow removal. So the developer decided to do a double driveway and in that one, it sufficed. And honestly, I don't think that this one should be any different. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with an R2 on this one.
Okay, awesome.
Other questions, comments from council? I see none. Thanks, Corey.
Thanks.
At this point, I ask anyone else in favor to come forward and speak? Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed who wishes to come forward and speak? Anyone opposed? Recognizing we have 2 letters in our package. Anyone deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard? Going once, going twice. As I see or hear nothing else, I will declare this public hearing closed. And we will jump back into the rest of our agenda. Sorry, I just need to make a note here so I don't forget. Okay, we'll jump into minutes for our previous meetings on page 3 in our package with the meeting from June 7th. Any issues with that? Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, we are missing a last name here on the motion 246-22 on page 8.
Okay. And this is one that'll be videoed, so you can go back and figure that one out. Okay, it's a motion to table these minutes to the next regular council meeting, moved by Councillor Adams. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, we've got in our package on page 9, Committee of the Whole from June 14th. Any issues? Councillor Ward.
Motion to accept the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting, June 14th, 2022 as presented.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, page 18, our package special meeting council held on June 14th. Councillor Hughes.
Motion to accept the minutes of the special meeting of council held on June 14th, 2022.
As presented, any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. So question period. So essentially, for just benefit, this is one we've kind of incorporated in the past, that if there was anything, we used to do like a CAO update. And so basically we had this big formal update every time. Kind of got a little bit cumbersome. So the idea was we're going to continue to do that as part of the Committee of the Whole. But we had this question period so that there's an opportunity that if there's any things that were kind of out there that CAO felt should be on our radar, that they would introduce those things at this point, as well as council had an issue with X, Y, and Z that they could bring it on to administration's piece. So on day 2, I assume you have a long and lengthy report there to share with us. But we're not going to hear that right now. We're going to move into any questions from council Any things that are burning on the radar? As I see none, we'll move on to reports and new business, page 20 in our package. And so Lori, this is for bylaw 22,
11, 22, 2022.
Yeah, but in here, my agenda thing, it's wrong here, sorry.
Yeah, that is wrong.
It is wrong. Yeah, okay. On our thing, it says 22,007, but it's 22.
It's 11-2022.
Yeah, it's amending land use bylaw 22 with, it probably needed more. That's okay.
Okay, all good. Okay, we know what we're talking about. So realistically, this is about a public hearing that we just had. Do you have any new information to add?
No, other than we're recommending rezoning. I think it fits the bill, doesn't create spot zoning. There's lots of those developments in the neighborhood, so I don't think there's going to be any issues with this development going ahead.
Okay. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Adams.
As far as this goes, I honestly am in favor of this. I feel the R2 districting does fit within that area as it is adapting from the R1 to an R2 zone right up to 4th. I'm in favor of this one and I hope others are too.
Okay, with that compelling speech, how could we not?
You got me, Steve.
Other questions, comments from council? I'll just add that for myself, sorry, I think feel free, let's start with the motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the bylaw number 11-2022 to amend the land use district map of the land use bylaw number 22-2007 by redistricting lot 14, block 12, plan 2977 RS from R1 standard detached residential district to R2 medium density residential district receives second reading.
Yeah, so I'll just chime in here on discussion and say that, you know, realistically, the easiest scenario for everyone is we keep doing the exact same thing we're doing in every spot forever. That being said, realistically, that doesn't work. And so I think we have to increase density. We have to increase infill. We're a community that is landlocked and development is not a cheap and easy thing to do. We also have a huge issue that we do not have enough vacancy in Slave Lake, and we're trying to grow a community and grow population, and we can't do that without housing. And so I encourage developers to come forward. I encourage developers to bring ideas. I encourage developers to develop because our community needs it. That being said, I understand that our residents have some concerns, and they have concerns around parking. They have concerns around how much frontage they would have. They have concerns around congestion and so on and so forth. And a lot of these pieces are valid concerns. I think there's some other ones that they identified that I think are a little less valid. And I don't think just adding density increases crime or brings a different type of person to a neighborhood. I don't think that those are fair justifications. But some of the other ones are concerned. Where are we going to put snow? How are we going to deal with garbage and so on and so forth? But these are all items that are addressed during a development stage. And so, you know, council's only here to look at zoning. That as part of the next process, as part of the permitting process, they'll have to decide what fits in there and operate within the parameters that we expect development to happen in the town of Slave Lake. And so I am in favor knowing that those pieces are going to be looked at, but the overarching message that I want to give to the community is that realistically, we have processes in place to make sure that a lot of these items that were concerns get addressed. And the message I want to give to developers out there is that we need development. And so bring your ideas forward, that we encourage it to happen, and we need to look at how we make things work. So that's my short answer of I'm in favor as well. Okay. So with that, the motion is on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. At this point, Councillor Ferguson.
Bylaw number 11-2022 to amend the land use district map of the land use bylaw number 22-2007 by redistricting lot 14, block 12, plan 2977 RS from R1 standard detached residential district to R2 medium density residential district receives third reading.
Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. So with that, we'll jump into the rest of our meeting. So moving to page 30 in our package, And Lori, this one's yours as well with the statutory plan updates.
Okay. The purpose of this report is for council to consider a potential schedule to update and rewrite the regulatory and statutory plans for the town of Slave Lake. So during the January 14th, 2020 council meeting, council passed a motion directing administration to bring back suggested phase next steps on statutory plans for the town of Slave Lake. So I'll just go over the report quickly. The average lifespan typically for a regulatory plan, such as a land use bylaw or development charge study, or a statutory plan, such as an area structure plan or the municipal development plan, is 5 years. Recognizing that this frame is not realistic for most municipalities, I'd recommend we update plans every 10 years at the latest. That said, the regulatory and statutory plan replacement schedule is utilizing 5, 10, and 15-year lifespans, depending on the plan. The 15-year lifespan was included to keep the annual costs a little easier to budget for. After the plans are all up to date, it may be prudent then to reduce the lifespan back down to 10. Currently, the development charge study is updated every 5 years based on a past council motion. This is to ensure the study accurately reflects inflationary increases, grants that offset capital costs, loan repayments, and other regulatory changes. Administration also contacted planning consultants with respect to approximate costs. I didn't receive any response from those companies, so I reached out to other municipalities to see what they paid for plans, and I've inputted those costs into the spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet calculates inflation over time, provides an annual contribution to the operating reserve to fund the plans that need to be updated. So attached to this report is a regulatory statutory plan replacement schedule. We're recommending that the first 2 plans that we would update would be the municipal plan development plan and the land use bylaw. These are 2 of our key regulatory and statutory plans and some of the oldest. In addition, these 2 documents have been amended more than any other plan, indicating that it's time for review and update. I know that land use bylaw, we're on about amendment bylaw, not 170. So there's lots of changes that have been done to that document since 2007. The schedule has these 2 plans being updated in 2023. The last plan in the first replacement cycle is the downtown and Main Street area plan, and it would be updated again in 2032. The values in the green lines indicate the years the funds would be expended to pay for a plan to be updated, and the values in the blue lines indicate the annual contribution necessary to pay for plans over time. There's also an inflationary rate that's been applied to each year and is showed at the top of the column. So 6.5% for 2022, 5.5% for 2023. And these were supplied by our Director of Finance. Actually, Roland helped me get the spreadsheet working properly because it wasn't calculating proper. Currently, there is a balance in the operating reserve to replace plans of 180,000. The reserve balance at the bottom of the spreadsheet shows how much would be left in the reserve from year to year based on a budget allocation to reserves and money spent updating plans. The schedule, as you can see, can be manipulated to adjust timeframes, adjust funding constraints. For instance, as presented, the schedule has 2 plans updated in 2023, 24, 25, and 1 in 2026. This is a very aggressive schedule, as updating plans takes a considerable amount of administrative and council time, and there's considerable community engagement typically involved in those. So sometimes you may get burnout with the public and you're trying to get buy-in on those. But like I said, we can manipulate this any way we see fit. With respect to council's vision, updated plans will allow the town to ascertain the community's and council's current vision of Slave Lake with respect to the plans and to respond in a timely fashion to potential subdivision and development projects. This initiative supports the economic health and livability strategic priorities. And again, the intent is merely to provide council with some information on life cycle planning and provides some potential budget implications, and recognizing that we can manipulate the spreadsheet however we see fit. That's it.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions, comments from council? Councillor Ferguson.
So with our next budget coming up for the town, will you be including this as information as part of the planning and development budget?
Yeah, there would be a report coming forward, or
Okay.
usually we do that. We bring a report forward suggesting a plan amendment and supporting a budget allocation or a budget ask.
Okay, just want to make sure it doesn't get lost. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Other questions, comments from council? Councillor Adams.
I'll make a motion that council accepts the proposed schedule of regulatory and statutory plan updates report as information.
Motion is on the floor. Just a couple things, Lori.
Okay.
First off, you talked about this being aggressive. So, you know, we see in 2023 that we'd be doing the NDP as well as the land use bylaw. And, you know, so there's a 200 and, well, some other pieces in here, whatever else we're talking, $224,000, $250,000 that we'd spend next year. And you talk about being aggressive. So the only thing I would encourage administration is we just bring this forward during budget, that we come up with a schedule that is also realistic,
Yeah.
not just aggressive. I guess, could the MDP and the land use bylaw be done at the same time, or they have to be done at the same time?
Yeah, actually, we done, talking about aggressive, we did the MDP, the municipal sustainability plan, the land use bylaw and the growth study all in 2007. It was a crazy volume of work, but it can't, so the MDP and the LUB, very doable.
Okay,
Yeah, but you were looking at least expecting it to be done in a year is probably not realistic. You're probably looking at a year and a half
Okay.
timeline to get those two done.
and both of those require a bunch of community consultation pieces and
Yeah.
things that have to go on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll just say overarchingly that, you know, this is always a tough one, that council, we talk about the need to update our plans and stay current, and then we go to budget deliberations, and we're like, yeah, you know what, just let's put it off, But you start to see some of those dates and the fact that we haven't updated, you know, the MDB and the land use bylaw is kind of a bible of what we're doing and where we're going. And the fact that we haven't updated it in a long time. I should be faster at math, but over 15 years or something we're knocking on, that, you know, it's probably time to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. Okay, motions on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Appreciate that very much. Lori, I did have one that I'm just going to throw out there while you're sitting there, though. And so at Municipal, we talked last week around industrial land. So one of the topics of the town and the MD was industrial land is something we've been talking about over the last few months. And it's largely around the fact that, you know, part of our mission and our vision and our thing is on these growth and these opportunities. And council is recognizing on both sides that industrial land is an issue right now that we just don't have anything to develop on. There's not a lot of space left over. We understand too that cycle goes like this all the time. And we've seen a short time ago where there was too many shops available, and so where that ends up. And what's interesting about this topic is that we were literally talking about this 10 years ago, just before the fire, like literally, I want to say the day of the fire when it first came in to town, and then it kind of got parked. And so now that it's kind of on the radar again, the town did commit to the MD about saying, hey, let's go back and dust off the information that we had previously. We had looked at a possible area southeast of town, and we had some preliminary information that we would start with that. They talked about some capacity issues on their side, so we said that we would kind of try and nudge that one along, and we were thankful that we have the same person that probably created all that information last time to be able to dig it out and dust it off. So hopefully that information wasn't lost in the fire.
No, I have quite a bit of, I think that we have quite a bit of that information, and can come back with a report
But
on that.
the intention in the future would be to share that with town and MD. And so I'd like to make a motion here so that it's on our books and it doesn't get lost, because it was made at Municipal, which isn't technically this body, but make a motion that administration bring forward a report on possible industrial land expansion in the town of Slave Lake limits and or region. And to start off with would just be like, let's start with the information we had previously, and we don't want to send people down rabbit holes to begin with, but let's kind of get some baseline stuff to start out with.
Okay, I can do that.
Any discussion on that motion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lori. So next we have the report on page 34 in our package for multi-rec service level changes. Jill, the floor is yours.
Okay, so good evening. The purpose of this report is to provide council with recommendations on service level changes to the multi-rec center. So in May, we were asked to bring back some options around looking at extending hours for the MRC for the spring and summer, as well as looking at what it might look like to keep the ice in for the 2023 season. Spring, summer season. So just a bit of history. In the spring of 2019, we changed our hours on the weekends for spring and summer based on the desire from council to find some cost saving at the MRC through changes to our hours. So at that point in time, we went back and looked at all of our stats and came back with proposing that we changed our spring summer hours to 12 to 4. And in order to communicate this easily to the public so that they have a good idea of an understanding of our hours, we try and keep consistent hours for spring and summer and fall and winter seasons. And then just on the ice side, normally ice is removed from both arenas at the end of March, beginning of April, once playoffs for hockey and any other events are complete. And then it's reinstalled at the beginning of August for Arena 1 and the beginning to mid-September for Arena 2. So this year we were approached to keep the ice in for an event in May, and the ice has been more heavily utilized than we expected. There has been some challenges with utilizing the same staff at the MRC as we do for parks. So just wanted to start to take a look at some of that for the future. So we have looked back at our usage statistics. So those are attached to the report. And so just to clarify to everyone, these are our paid customers that are coming into the field house and the track. So we did go back to 2016 just because in 2019, for those of you who weren't around, we hosted the reception center for the high level evacuees. So the multi-rec center was used for a portion of that. So our
I cut you off and ask a question on the fly. It's not multiple uses then. Like if I went once, it's only recorded once. That's that number?
per the day. So if you came in once on Saturday and then once on Sunday.
Okay, so like 357, that could be all me? Or am I only recorded once in the whole year?
No, you're recorded once every time you come in.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, sorry. So yeah, 2019, we had a little bit of an odd year, and then we went into a few more really odd years there. So we went back to 2016 to look at our stats. So in looking at those, what we did notice, and I just primarily focused because we're just looking at our spring summer stats. So I have provided you with 2019 to 2022 to date the full scope, but I just looked at the weekends for previous years. But what we do find is, so April and September are kind of our mid-season there. This year, the weather really didn't pick up to be nice until later in the spring season. So we are noticing that in April and September, our usage is higher than those summer months. We also noticed when we were looking at it that while we do have usage throughout the day, that 10 to 12, and this is why we made the recommendation in the beginning, that 10 to 12 time frame in May through August is really quiet. So like we've only had two uses on average per weekend in 2017, 3 in 2016. So like it's very slow. So that's why we made that recommendation. However, looking at April and September, we do see that there's a little bit more usage there. So what we're proposing in order to offer the best customer service, but while still watching our budgets and not staffing people when we don't have people in the building utilizing it, was to look at April and September doing a little bit of like a spring fall season. So keep our hours during the week the same, and then Saturday and Sunday looking at doing 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then also looking back at the stats that people seem to want to come in like an hour before we close so that they get that time that they're utilizing, because no one, like generally people aren't going to come in and play their sport for just a half an hour time frame. So we're just proposing as well that we stay open until 5 in that May to August time frame. That would be an increase of about 96 staff hours, which is approximately $2,000 of additional in our budget. And then for Arena One Ice, so as mentioned, we left the ice in for a special event. We've had lots of good response to that. Some of our user groups that we approached when we decided to keep the ice in had let us know that they would be interested in future seasons. They would just like to see us give them a little bit more notice. And then we also have learned that we're one of the few communities in our areas that keep the ice in. So if we were to do this in the future, we'd want to, or our plan would be that we would market our ice availability to other communities in order to host hockey schools or other camps. There's figure skating schools that go around. So just want to get a jump start on planning for that. Because the demand on our staffing to keep the ice in and manage parks is quite a lot. We would be asking if we wanted to make that work for someone that an additional seasonal position, so that would run from May to September. We don't currently have, it's been a really tough season. And then that also, so last week we heard about that bathroom facility that we were looking at for Hilda Eden. So we just, there was a desire to have that cleaned and looked after. So if we had this person, we don't have the capacity currently within our staffing to look after a bathroom facility that's above and beyond what we have the capacity to do. So if we brought in someone seasonally, this could be added to their scope as well. So the cost for that would be, we would be looking at approximately $18,000 for a part-time seasonal staff person. Sorry, I shouldn't say part-time, a seasonal full-time staff person. And then we've looked back, we've only had 1 month's utility bills come in, but we're looking at about an additional $5,000 per month in the summer for utilities. So there would be $20,000 there. And then I didn't communicate this very well in my report, but we'd also, I always account for the extra overtime, additional overhead, and unforeseen things that we are looking at. So overall, our recommendation would be to look at increasing the multi-rec center hours. My recommendation would be to start that this September. So that would be an additional approximately $1,000 we haven't budgeted for, but just to offer, based on the feedback we've received, and to offer the best customer service, to look at switching those hours for September. So it's looking at Saturdays and Sundays 10 to 7. And then communicating that out. I know I had said that we like to try and have like 2 kind of seasons, but we would just have to work on our communication plan around that. And then obviously 2023 increases overall would have to be talked about when we go into budgeting for 2023, but we'd like to start planning for leaving the ice in for the spring summer 2023 season. So yeah.
Okay. Questions from council before, just one clarification piece before we jump into it. So you're asking for council, because in the motion, you're asking for council to approve an additional temporary position for the 2023. Then you also talked about considering stuff at budget. So I'm trying,
I guess, so we don't approve, like we're talking, so we want to look at it for the 2023 budget, but I mean, I guess we'd like you to approve it, but ultimately we still haven't approved the 2023 budget. So it has to be included in that discussion. Yeah.
okay. But then
for September is just 1 month. So that's about $1,000.
She can't plan for the ice to be in without the position, so that's what she needs.
Yeah, and then we just want to look at expanding hours starting in September, but that's only about $1,000.
So just clarification piece to administration here is that I totally understand that you're looking for direction on September. That's the 1 month piece, but you're looking for kind of approval on a position for the 2023. Like this person would be hired in 2023?
It wouldn't be, they're starting in May. It would be May 2023 that we'd be looking to.
Okay, so rather than approve the position now, wouldn't we approve it in the budget when it comes up?
But she's trying to keep it so she knows if she's gonna put the ice in or not. Without this position, it'd be a different story. Can they afford to keep the ice in for us?
But realistically, we need to make the decision on whether or not we're gonna keep it, take out the ice next April now.
We would like to start planning ahead. We've had people already inquiring about if we're gonna do it and what the cost would be for summer speed, like a summer hockey school next year.
Okay.
So I guess it just would be a change to service levels overall moving forward. So
It wasn't at the point that the user groups are looking on pre-planning, like if the ice is
Yeah.
gonna, I heard that from figure skating, that if the ice was going to be kept in, they would make adjustments to their, because I know most kids start registration looking at September to May, but if the ice is gonna be kept in, things might go past their annual carnival and things like that, but they'd like to offer that to parents now.
Like, we could always just say you're leaving the ice in and tell her that a month before, like last time, but now they could actually plan for it and have a position ready to help carry out some of this
Oh, and
task.
that people know that that's coming. So if we're looking at booking summer hockey schools or maybe summer figure skating schools or learn to skates,
and
people
really
plan now.
we should be starting to do that. So I think often what we run into is we do things on the fly because we think it's a good idea, which often things are. But if we're looking to market at schools, we should be doing that in September to January and then have our plans in place for January as opposed to starting to look in January. So
Okay. Okay, understand. Questions from council? Let's jump into it. Counselor Grandma.
Just curiosity, the hours booked.
Yeah.
What were the hours available? Like, were we like 80% ice usage? Because it wasn't the same hours as
it
winter,
wasn't
right?
quite the same hours available. So we had Tuesday to Saturday. So Tuesday to Saturday, or Tuesday to Friday would have been full day. Saturday was just the 4 hours that were open.
So do you think it was well received, like 70-80% usage?
I think about 70% of, like, most of the evenings, the prime times were
Used? Okay,
So
good.
it was
That's-
like that early afternoon that we
It
don't
wasn't
generally
sitting
get
wasted in the
utilized.
evening. It was well used.
Yeah, like we had lots of requests for evenings, and then two people are like, well, you should leave the other ice in. I was like, yeah, no, we're not quite there yet, but because everyone wants that 7 to 9 time frame. So that time was booked every day. And then, yeah, we're filling in with.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Adams.
Is it possible to get full usage stats? I know you got a selection of months there, but is it possible to get the stats for 12 months? To see that usage
For which, sorry, there is.
for the MRC,
There is there for 2019 to.
April to September, so where's the rest? All right, I'll look for another page. And the next one is under the hours used, utilization. Do you have total hours available?
For which, sorry.
For hours booked, you have April, May, 126.5, 111 hours in your report.
For the ice.
That's in page 3 of 5.
Yeah, so it says hours booked that basically this year for April and May for ice, you had 126.5 hours booked for April and 111 for May. And
How many hours do we have available?
She said it was 70%
Yeah.
used.
Well, 70?
But those numbers represent 70%.
Off the top of my head, I'd have to go back and like sit down.
And then
do my
on Saturday and
calculations.
Sunday with that hours you have available, how many staff do you normally have on for those?
So we didn't have Sunday available in the spring and summer because that was one of the requests when we went in, is that our staff wanted, generally, our staff look forward to the spring and summer because they get weekends off. They work weekends all winter. So they said that they were happy to work Saturdays, but they wanted Sundays off. Sundays we didn't have ice available. But Saturday, we just had one staff on and the ice was available when we were open 12 to 4 unless we arranged something outside of that.
So we thought about, well, one thing, sorry, can I keep going?
sure. Okay.
I'm just wondering why we don't offer, I'd rather see our facility being available for use. And I think with consistent hours, we would see an increase in usage. And that one staff member working 5 hours on a weekend, like, why couldn't we expand that to 8 hours? I understand usage may be down at the beginning, but
So that's why we're asking for an extra position, and everyone currently is tied to their 40-hour work week, so we can't expand on that. And we also
But you
have to
proposed-
keep our parks and everything maintained. So that was part of our challenge this year, and why we are bringing it forward now is that we'd like to be able to offer it and offer more hours, but we don't have it within our current staffing model. to do
gotcha.
that.
Sorry, I misread the line.
Yeah.
That's why. Apologies. Thank you.
I don't think we heard the apologies if you want to go again. Counselor Hughes.
You had mentioned before something about marketing this out to other communities and interest from other communities. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit on that? Like which communities and what they might be looking for?
So we always are in touch with other communities. So specifically, we've talked to this year, High Prairie. Haven't like Lac La Biche isn't really in our area, but we talk with Lac La Biche, and there's lots of, and I'm trying to remember, I had a phone call from someone else, but they were surprised that our ice was in, and they're like, oh, our kids would love to skate, because lots of people send their kids to Edmonton for summer hockey or summer schools. So our plan would be, we generally have our, like when we did our fee review, we generally we could send it out to everyone, and we have our it's not active right now, but we have a North Central recreation group, so we'd send it out to them, and just,
Okay.
And then also to like there's groups that tour around that often go to Grand Prairie, Peace River, some of those other places, so we would plan to get in touch with them.
Okay, so we have the potential for other northern communities to come here and use it in the summertime.
Yeah, 100%, and not just hockey schools, there's figure skating schools and special events and things
Okay,
like that
thank
as
you.
well. So.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Councillor Ferguson.
So just some comments here. So thank you for bringing this forward. I really like it. We have a multi-million-dollar facility and we should be using it as much as reasonably possible. We've also seen some pent-up demand since COVID restrictions have come off. So I do believe we need to be flexible and adjust to this demand. However, though, this clearly comes at a cost, approximately $43,000, which amounts to a nearly 0.5% tax increase. So there's some really good information here, but I feel much more comfortable seeing this in context of the whole budget picture. And I'd be inclined to bring this back as part of the whole budget process, which will start in September, so I can make a fully informed decision.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Councillor Adams.
Counterpoint to that, I understand about the budget impact and how it's going to be there, but I also realize the stressors and the necessity to schedule this out from what's been explained by Jill and also brought up by other councillors. I feel that there is room to have that increase in expenditure on utilization of, like you said, a multi-million-dollar facility at the cost of something else if we had to. What that would entail, I get you want to have the budget discussion, but I would also like to see this be committed to for at least 1 year and have that put out there.
Sorry, something to add too is that we're not just giving the ice away for free. If we have the ice in, we're collecting revenue off of it. We're collecting additional revenue off of additional drop-ins and things like that. Like drop-ins aren't a huge amount, but we're obviously seeing an addition to our revenue by keeping ice in. And we do, when we approved fees, I know that one's always kind of a controversial one that comes up, but we do charge a premium for summer ice because of the additional cost to run it.
So your point is that the $43,000 expenditure might actually have less of a net impact on budget because it's not factoring in any of your revenue.
Yeah.
Point. So approximately, what would we see with revenue in regards to what
we had? That would have been, so if we had a total of 237 hours booked, some of that was our drop-in sessions. So we're just collecting drop-ins off of that, but
200 hours times how many, what's price per hour?
Charging probably on average like $130 an hour. I know from the Oilers hockey school alone, we bought it in at least $5,000 off of that. So
200 an hour times 130 an hour is 26,000.
Yeah, so we're offsetting. But I mean, we know that recreation, we're never covering all of our costs, but will offset some of that extra expenditure with that additional revenue.
I think apart from the town breaking even on that, the town of Slave Lake, the community of Slave Lake will reap great rewards from hockey schools, hockey tournaments, figure skating things. You're going to see a large uptick in business if we could have that ice in all year, and the only one in the region where you could have some tournaments and hockey schools. You're going to bring in hundreds, if not thousands of people to do this stuff. So you'll reap the rewards that way.
Councillor Ward.
Got the name change right.
I got nailed tonight. I don't expect it every meeting, but I got it tonight.
I was just going to agree with Councillor Adams on this. While I respect that it's budget's an important time, that's where we decide things for the next year. I think this needs more leeway. I think this needs more lead up time in order to advertise. And I know one of the biggest concerns is always when we were campaigning, some of the biggest concerns brought forth by residents was accessibility of the beautiful town facilities that they are paying for in their taxes. And I, for one, am for anything that is going to increase the accessibility, increase the hours for residents. And if we're looking at usage out of the MRC, I think summer ice is a great idea.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, another comment?
Sure,
Just
Councilor
no one's
Brown.
been more critical of the facility being closed and the hours and why can't it be open and not necessarily me, but people who talk to me and I have to relay the message. So admin's got creative and brought a way to do it. So I think we should support them and try to go with their decision because they're doing what we're asking them to do. They're just getting it done their way. So I'm full support of this. I think we should all be in support of it.
But I think when I looked at it, I mean, I'm one that's always been like, no, we do our spring and summer and we do our fall and winter, but we're trying to think outside the box. And so let's try this and maybe we try it next year and it doesn't work and we have to come back and we have to look at it. But if we don't try new things, we don't know that things work or don't work. So I'm trying to change my perspective on things as well. So you guys challenged me and I figured it out. So.
I was gonna stand up and clap, Jill, but I thought it'd be too much over the top, so I had to play that down in my head. I will say, I really struggle with this fiscally there. I'm a little bit more in the corner of Councillor Ferguson because I'm like, let's discuss this at budget. Like, why are we discussing this now? And I struggle with that piece, but literally I've been the guy that's sat in how many meetings and said like chase revenue. We need to expand service levels. We need to be more creative. You guys are literally doing that. My net impact to the budget is somewhere between $20,000 and $43,000 depending. And we're trying new stuff. And I think if anything, we all learned through COVID is that we have to adapt. And so, I think some of the council discussions are going behind the scenes a lot of the time is around it, does admin adapt? Are they doing it, whatever else? And so, Jill, I will say that, I was quite shocked actually that you brought this forward and said, yes, we should do this. So because I was reading the report and I kept flipping back to the motion and be like, am I reading this right? They want to do this. It's okay. And so I got to give you guys huge credit for doing that and rising to the challenge. So, I would make myself look really stupid if I didn't support this motion. So I appreciate you guys doing the work and the time, and I appreciate you taking on the challenge. Other questions, comments? Councillor Adams.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go for it.
That council establish the hours at the Multirec Center will normally be open to the public effective September 1st, 2022 from September 1st to 30th and April 1st to 30th, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., October 1st to March 31st, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and May 1st to August 31st, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Actually, one catch there. On the Sunday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., the video said 10 to 10, but it's 10 to 8. There we go. I was thinking of 10 to 8.
Fix that one up.
Okay. So I think these other lines are not extra motions. They're part of the motion.
Sorry, guys, I thought those were extras.
Lots of water. Keep going.
Okay, that council approves a service level change of keeping ice in Arena 1 for the 2023 spring summer season, and the council will approve an additional temporary position for an MRC parks operator for the 2023 spring summer season.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Are those in favor? That is carried. Okay, thanks, Jill. We appreciate it. Mayor's Corner. Oh, sorry. No, we have that additional one.
Yes.
Bryce, municipal tax exemptions, social housing.
Yes, so I'd like to have a letter written to the Ministry of Seniors and Housing to clarify their intent around municipal tax exemptions for social/affordable family housing. So the province has announced that they are exploring tax exemptions for privately owned for-profit social housing. It seems they are inclined to move in this direction. So there was a rep from the government of Alberta at our last housing meeting, and I asked for more details around this, but did not get any answers, and they were non-committal in their responses. So this has the potential to affect the taxpayers of Slave Lake significantly. And personally, I do have an issue with the rest of the town subsidizing for-profit private businesses in the form of tax exemptions. And they also mentioned that government-owned buildings that currently have tax exemption status could see this status transferred to private businesses. So I would like to write a letter to the ministry clarifying their intent around this.
So feel free to make a motion.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that the town of Slave Lake reaches out to the Ministry of Seniors and Housing and ask for clarification around municipal tax exemptions for social housing owned by private industry and what the ministry's plan is going forward.
Motion is on the floor. John is nodding like, I got this, bro. Okay.
There's two of them.
Motion is on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay. Mayor's Corner, things have actually been quite busy behind the scenes. I'll start by saying I want to take a moment to thank Tammy Kendall. So Tammy Kendall, many that don't know, looks after our seniors programming here at the town of Slave Lake, and she does an amazing job with that. We are so lucky to have her. She's super quiet and hardly ever talks to us, but she does a fantastic job. Not only that, council was pleasantly surprised to know tonight that she does amazing beadwork as well. And so she crafted all of these pieces for council that we're wearing tonight in respect and acknowledgement of National Indigenous Peoples Day. And so I just wanted to say, Tammy, you're doing a fantastic job, and council very much appreciates the time and effort you put into these keepsakes for us. Also want to say congratulations to the Métis Nation, and I know Hilda Lambert there. They just hosted a celebration on the weekend on Saturday at the MRC. It was one of the first ones that they had done over here. So it was great to see these cultural components and activities in our community, see our facilities being used. And I think that it goes a long way to towards, in continually evolving our community and adding more cultural aspects. I just want to say great job to them. Full transparency, I got COVID last week, and so I was locked up for a few days, and away we went. And so I wasn't able to make it to her event on Saturday, but I appreciate the invitation and thanks for hosting it. Some of the big news over the last week or two was around homelessness and the homeless camps that we had set up. Some of the things that have been going on there. Landowner reached out to us, councils in the town were doing some communication. I want to thank all the agencies that stepped up. So for those that weren't aware, there was a homeless camp that was set up on some private land in the southwest area of town. That landowner approached RCMP and Bylaw and said, listen, I would like to demobilize this camp. I don't want it on our property. Very quickly, the town reached out to MLA's office. We reached out to AHS and a number of ministries. They all responded really quickly, and there was an organized response to this in the sense that, hey, rather than just go in there and say, get off the land, that we wanted to incorporate some support. So I want to thank those different agencies and the MLA's office for helping facilitate getting in touch with some of the ministries. But basically that day we had a number of agencies on site to say, whether it was mental health or addictions or income supports, to be able to offer some advice and some resources and some help. And we had a debrief with that today and spent a couple hours having a conversation with a number of them that were there. It was unfortunate. A lot of it wasn't utilized, but I also think there was other factors going on that day. And, some of the volunteers highlighted the fact that, they also had to pack that day and things were happening. And so I just want to, I appreciate administration and the different agencies stepping up in a very quick timeline. And I think they did a really good job. I will say council continues to struggle with what to do with homelessness and where we go next. We don't have a magical answer for that. The province is supposed to release some information here at the end of the month. They've basically had a working group, a think tank working on it here all spring, and the province as a whole is struggling with it. All you have to do is look at the city of Edmonton. They've got their own issues. Ours are not unique. And so having limited resources and limited knowledge, I just want to thank all the members of the community for lots of input and advice and stepping up. But I recognize there's still a lot of work to do there, and I don't have an answer, but I just want to thank administration, all the agencies for playing a part. I already introduced Jeff, our new CAO, but a bunch of HR pieces that go on with that behind the scenes. The council's been busy with that. We had a great discussion with Jeff for a couple hours here before the meeting today, and we'll have to give him some time, but he can tell that this council is not a sleepy little group, and we're chomping at the bit to change the world, and we'll see what happens. Mayor and members of council dropped over at Spillix today, so I just want to, I know Joe was already there and he'll do an article on it, but something to highlight there. They were celebrating their 50th anniversary, and so you know, in the context for residents of Slave Lake, you know, you have a business that literally we just recently celebrated the 50th anniversary of the incorporation of becoming a town, and this business has also been around for 50 years. Family business that was started. It's still the same family that owns it on the same land that they started with back when she, you know, I was talking to Judy today when the community was less than 1,000 people, and we didn't even have pavement. So it's impressive to say the least. And so I want to say big congratulations to the Spillix family. And I know that they're not the only business that has a lasting legacy in Slave Lake, and we look forward to celebrating all of those as time goes on. We had a good intermunicipal meeting there last week. We made a little bit of headway on the fire services agreement and had some discussions on that. We hope to get into the intermunicipal as we move forward. Largely discussions have been around getting some better understanding from the MD about what they're looking for. Largely the town doesn't have a huge concern with many of the items that are in there. We do recognize that some of the water pieces have to be pulled out, but we're anxious to get those things done and moving forward. Council's also, one of the things that we identified during our strategic planning was around some media relations pieces. And so council spent a bunch of time yesterday with a consultant there who led us through some media relations training that we involved a number of our staff members on. And so we're busy with some more of that in person tomorrow. No, Thursday, sorry. Thursday, we're doing that one. Staff has some stuff before then, but council's doing theirs on Thursday. Other than that, we'll be coming up into summer. So for a reminder to council that we typically, we officially have already canceled one of the meetings in July and one in August, correct? Okay. Right. Yeah, so we usually cancel the third one in July and the first one in August. So there's kind of a month-long break in there. So I know that council, you know, there's a lot of things that have been going on behind the scenes, and everybody's excited and looking forward to that break. And we're kind of on a stretch there. We only got 2 more meetings left for that. Other than that, I won't touch on that one. So let's, that'll be the end of the mayor's corner. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Ward, thank you. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Joe, for coming.